Hi everyone and welcome to Scrap FX YouTube channel. I'm Neve and today we're going to be looking at a Pigs Will Fly card. So this card is using the new Steampunk Pigs Might Fly little chipboard, and I just loved it. So I had this idea of an interactive card in mind. Starting off using a whole heap of oxide inks in the blue ranges and just scribbling them onto my glass mat and then spritzing them with water. And then all I'm doing is just dropping in my cardboard, which is A5 cardboard split in half, and just going in, drying it, then adding another layer, just trying to pick up all those different bits and pieces. So I'm just trying to create this sort of cloudy background that I'm going to use for my pig so it can be flying. And I need the two pieces because one piece is going to be on the front of the card and one piece is going to be on the inside. So I'm using the Random D stencil from Scrap FX and just using this little scallop edge to help me create some clouds. So I'm just moving it around just so I get a sort of random cloud shape. So once I've finished that, I've got some Heidi Swapp Colour Shine in white, and it's kind of more a pearlescent colour. And when you put it down, it actually looks quite clear, but when it dries, you get this beautiful pearlescent sheen on your page. You can see that happening almost immediately. It's quite magic. I wasn't expecting it to work like that. I actually thought it was going to be a more opaque white colour. So I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. So what I've done is just continued to add my clouds in, and then I just put some drops of the ink in the background as well. So I just sort of spritz them out, and I'm really bad at doing this because I tend to get my spray and splatter everywhere, as you can see from my glass mat. So I'm going back in and doing the same thing to the second page, using that stencil again to create those cloud shapes, going in again with the ink to colour in my clouds, and then just doing a bit of splatter over the top. I've got my Use It Up journal up in the corner just to test out my paint pen and to put in any extra inks and so on as I go along, because I tend to end up with sort of extra paint on my journal page, or my paint pen doesn't quite work, so I need somewhere to test it out. So it's always handy to have that journals just sitting around so I can do something with it later. So once I'd finished doing this, I then needed to work out how I was going to put it all together. So I'm going to trim down my pages so they fit into my card, just so they've got a nice border on them. I probably should have measured. I was just doing it by sight, and it's a new trimmer, so it wasn't as accurate as I would have liked, but I'm usually fairly good at measuring by eye, so just make sure you've got a nice even border around it. And then I'm going in with my pot of gel medium, just so I've got a nice circle, and a craft knife just to cut out a circle. And this is going to be where the pig's going to be suspended from. So basically what it's going to happen is the pig's going to be suspended in that little window, and I've got the cloud in the background, so you've got the cloud hanging in the background as well, so it looks like it's sort of flying in midair. I'm just using double-sided tape to glue down the background into the inside of the card. I tend to find when I'm working with cards that I use double-sided tape an awful lot. I don't particularly like working with wet media all that much. I tend to find that I have glue issues, and it tends to spread out everywhere where I don't want it to be. So once I've done that, I'm then cutting out the second circle. Now it's really important that you do this. You could cut it out at the same time if you would like, but the reason I didn't do the cloud base onto the front of the card is the fact that I need to hide the string that the pig's going to be suspended on. So by having that double layer means I can hide where the string's going to be and make sure that it's not visible from the other side as well when you open up. I'm just now going in with my paint pens to colour in my piggy. I'm just using lots of different shades of pink and Coral from the Posca paint pens. If you would like to, you can do a base coat of white on this. I didn't actually do that on this pig, and I should have. It's my usual rule, as I usually do. But I was very excited to get this project done, so I just sort of hoed on into it. So I'm just putting a second layer of ink on. It doesn't really matter in the end, but if you want to have a really true colour come through, it does help. And you can see that on the wings I did actually put a base of white. The reason for that is I knew I wanted to use the fluorescent pink on this, and I want it to be really fluorescent, so you can see that that really pops on the white. Now I'm going into the wings and just doing a random mix of the different coloured pinks on the wings. And the great thing about the Scrap FX chipboard is the fact that you've got this beautiful etching into it, so you can take your time to colour it in really nicely, and you've got those colouring lines there for you. So once I've finished colouring my pig, I'm just going in with some black just to add some highlights and sort of put in some of those marks from the etching that's already there. Also putting in some of the black around the little spots I put in, and putting in the hooves of the pig. So when I finished that, I then knew that I needed to colour the other side of my pig, because it is going to be seen, particularly as it turned around. So I had to do a little bit of problem solving about that and how I was going to do it. So I had some sticker paper from one of the printables I print out, and I just needed a white surface that I could stick over the back of my pig. And the reason for using sticker paper was that, again, it was a way to hide the string that I was going to suspend my pig from. So I'm just putting on some string that I've got in my stash, and then sticking the sticker paper over the top. So you can see that it's hidden, and it just makes everything sort of look neat and look uniform as it's hung. It's just something extra when you're doing an interactive card like this. You need to be able to think about the front and the back of the card and what's going to be seen. So because it's such a fine piece of chipboard, I'm using my craft knife to cut around the edges. Personally, I find it much easier to use a craft knife to do this, but for those of you who are really good fussy cutting with scissors, go for it. I'm just not very good when it comes to scissors. I tend to chop things off that I shouldn't. So I find if I've got my craft knife on, it's much easier. Then I'm just going in on the sticker paper and just colouring my pig in the same way I've done before, but I really struggled with the wings. It was lovely on the other side that the Scrap FX chipboard had the wings etched in there, or the little feathers for the wings. Trying to come up with those shapes myself, I really struggled with. So one side looks a lot better than the other side. But I'm just going in the same way with the same colours that I used in the wings before, putting in those little feathery shapes, and then going in with a black pen to sort of make the feather shapes pop out a little bit further. Just when you're working, try and keep the thread out of the way. It does tend to want to go exactly where you're painting, so just be aware that if you can tuck it out of the way, that would be really handy. So once I've finished doing this, then I need to sort of put the whole card together. So to do that, I'm going to cover the front of the card with some double-sided tape. And no, I'm not. I'm going to edge the corners of my circle with a dark grey pen. The reason for that is I struggle with cut edges. I like hiding them, and if you use a dark neutral to do that, it just blends it into the background a little bit more, so you don't have that really sharp white edge. I tend to use a dark grey rather than a black, because black's a little bit too obvious. Now when you're doing this too, do it from the opposite side from the bit that you've coloured in. The reason for that is if it accidentally goes over the edge, like you can see on my card front, it's going to be on the side that you're covering, not on the side that you can see from the other side of the card, if that makes sense. So I just stuck some double-sided tape down and then put the string in so it's suspended, put my piggy in, and then stuck it down onto the card front. To finish off this card, all I did was with my When Pigs Fly chipboard, coloured it in with that dark grey neutral again. And the alcohol markers go really, really well on chipboard and really finish it off beautifully. And you can see that fabulous shine from the clouds. So I was really pleased that I picked that ink to do that. So I've just used some of my mixed media glue to glue that down. And you can see now that it's suspended and it hangs, and you've got that little piggy flying through the sky. This is a really fun project to work on, and I do love having interactive cards, and my daughter, when she picked it up, just absolutely adored playing with it. So I hope you have a go at doing this as well. Thank you so much for watching.